So welcome to Small Talk Sucks. It's a pleasure to have you here, JT.
It's great to be here.
Been looking forward to this for a while.
Me too.
I've had the blessing of watching your journey over the last decade plus, you having the ascension of becoming a songwriter. It's been amazing to watch you reach new heights. What inspired you to want to be a songwriter in the first place?
I really just feel like I am a huge music fan, you know? In some ways, as much as I feel like an artist, I really just feel like a fan of music. And I've been a fan my whole life. You know, I was always the one at the party who wanted to be running the playlist, or the one at the campfire who wanted to be playing guitars and playing, trying out new guitar licks and, singing my favorite songs. So it kind of blossomed naturally from that to doing cover songs, recording cover songs, and then recording my own originals, which I started in high school. Obviously they were trash, but you got to start somewhere. And eventually it was just like taking up more and more of my free time. And you kind of cross that barrier where you go, why not just make this my life? Why am I not just doing this for my career? And I was living in Chicago after college. I went to University of Wisconsin-Madison. Excuse me.
You're good.
I went to University of Wisconsin-Madison and then moved to Chicago and worked at The Onion and Comcast Sportsnet there. And I was,
Like The Onion, the satirical?
yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was right when they stopped doing the paper and they started doing the website. And I was working as a DIT and production assistant there. And it was I could see my career working in video production because that's the family business. My dad runs a business in Wisconsin, and they do TV commercials and stuff like that. But I just had the passion for music, and I read this book called The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. And I remember being on the CTA in Chicago and just feeling like he was talking to me reading that book.
Wow, it was
like,
a message.
Yeah, it was like, why should anyone treat you like a professional before you treat yourself like a professional?
Wow.
And why not commit fully to what you really want to be doing? And so, I read that book, and that was like a game changer for me. And I moved home, saved money, and did the move to LA.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a big, bold move.
Yeah, especially when you don't know how you're going to make it work.
Yeah.
I think I kind of talked myself into it. I get those emails now like, so-and-so's thinking about moving to LA. Like, what, you remember that feeling?
Yeah.
What was it like? I was like, just stupid optimism and being a little bit crazy and just, I think
You're like, I'm going to have 10 number ones in the next year.
Yeah. And also I don't know that. I mean, I just passed 10 years here, and I don't know that when I first moved here, I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to be here for 10 years. I think it was more like, I'm going to go try it out and go see what it's like. And I actually ended up taking over a lease for my friend who was in a car accident, was in a coma for 7 weeks. So they needed somebody to take his apartment.
Oh my God.
And
Is he better now?
He's better now. He's in better shape than I am now.
Wow. God bless him.
He's living in Wisconsin. He's got a little baby girl, and he's got married this year.
Wow. God bless.
Shout out Johnny Gleason. Love you, bud.
That's epic.
Yeah. But they needed somebody to take over his apartment while he was in a coma. And I was like,
So it's divine intervention.
Kinda. Yeah. Kinda. But obviously, you know how that goes. Like, first 6 months is just brutal here. You think doors are all going to open, and you gotta kind of got to kick them open.
Or go in through the back window.
Exactly. Like, however,
you got to figure it out.
Yeah.
I remember one of our early times we got together, and you had brought like the sketches folder. Was that 10 years ago? Because I think you had just gotten to LA.
It was.
You had been here for like 4 or 5 weeks tops. I think.
And I still have my folder of demos is still called Sketch Library.
Wow.
Yeah, and I just changed the year every year. But
I remember the first introduction I got to you was from a friend of both of ours, Corbin Cox. And
shout out Corbin.
Shout out Corbin. And he sent me one of your songs. I believe it was called Static.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And what era was that? Was that when you were still early on in the songwriting process? Or you had that this was post high school, obviously?
So that was right after college.
That was right after college. So you had kind of refined your touch a little bit.
I had like started... I was well into writing my own originals, and I was still doing like monthly covers on YouTube and starting to get some traction there. And a year after I graduated was when University of Wisconsin Teach Me How to Bucky went viral, which was like a Teach Me How to Ducky cover. Or Teach Me How to Ducky. Teach Me How to Dougie. Teach Me How to Ducky. That's an Oregon Ducks.
100%.
Yeah. But this guy named Quincy and Cliff Griefy, they did a
Production, right?
They did a cover of Teach Me How to Dougie where it was Teach Me How to Bucky, which is the Wisconsin mascot. And it went super viral. And so I reached out to them and I was like, yo, is there any way we could figure out a way to cross promote? And because they had, a lot of followers or whatever at the time. And that's how I met Quincy. And we just immediately became best friends and we're working on music like every night, basically.
Epic. Because you were releasing like a song a week or like a song that I remember a stretch of when I first heard about you.
Yeah. I was doing like a monthly cover or like a weekly cover. I tried everything, it's like.
Static really impressed me though. I saw the foresight of, like, it had all the makings of someone understanding like the fundamental approach to making good pop music. It was like quirky in its own way. The production was tight. The vocal delivery was impressive. And I remember that's when you first came on my radar, and I was very impressed. Thanks, very impressed.
Yeah, that was a really special era because Quincy was such a great producer. He's a great writer too, but he was a much better producer than me. So I felt like I was working with somebody who could learn so much from, and he was pushing me as a writer and as a producer. And that was just, I was lucky. I always say, people are like, what was your experience with college? And I'm like, really the greatest value from going to college was the people that I met there. Like if I hadn't met him, I don't even know if I would have ended up in LA, because that's who I ended up crashing with 6 months after running out of money in LA.
Wow.
I moved in. He was out here living with a guy named Nathan Lim, one of my favorite people, who managed Cruella, who had a big hit at the time, Alive. And they were living.
I remember that record.
Yep. It's an amazing song. And he was living in a house with Nathan Lim and an artist named Steven. And an artist named
Steven's
Coda.
Crazy talented.
Steven's insane.
You did Wasted Roses with him, right?
I did Wasted Roses with Steven.
Yeah.
Steven's amazing, one of my favorite artists and producers ever, and one of my best friends.
He's incredibly talented.
He is, and so is Coda.
Yeah, Coda's amazing.
Coda's
too.
incredible, bro.
Yeah.
He's like Tom York.
Yeah,
vibes.
Coda's crazy.
He's a really
he's a Swiss Army knife.
He is.
Yeah.
He's like a savant.
So the universe lined you up with these people.
Yes.
You're living at whose house at this time?
So I ran out of money after 6 months.
Sounds about LA.
Yep. Yeah. And Quincy, being a good friend, was like, why don't you just come crash with us until you can get ahead of your finances? And so I was living in this house with all these other artists. It's a 3-bedroom house, but there was like, at any given time, there was like 6 or 7 people there.
Wow. And you were like in a hallway, like partition or something.
So
right?
on my birthday, it would be 10 years ago this month.
Wow. When's your birthday?
October 23rd.
Wow.
On my birthday 10 years ago, they surprised me. I had been couch surfing, like sleeping on the couch in the basement, just trying to stay out of everybody's way, cooking, cleaning, whatever, just to like, pull my weight in the house. And on my birthday, they surprised me and they turned the upstairs hallway into a bedroom for me. They put a curtain up and like a bunch of cheap IKEA, Target, like live, laugh, love signs on the walls, like the corniest stuff you could possibly imagine. And the joke was that I was like the house dad because I was cooking and cleaning for everybody, and I have strong dad vibes, strong Seth Rogen dad vibes. And they framed a certificate on the wall that said "World's Greatest Dad," and they all signed it, and it was framed on the wall. So
that's epic.
But I just like immediately started crying because it was my ticket to stay here.
Yeah,
it was. I'll never forget that gesture. Yeah, it was incredibly kind of them to let me stay there, and I was there for 3.5 years.
Wow.
Sleeping on that twin mattress in the hallway above the living room and writing demos out of a walk-in closet where I had turned it into a studio.
But that almost in a way helped you and forced you to develop like a particular approach and sound, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And I had guidance on that too, because I think I had the benefit of having good mentors in that era with Quincy and Nathan and my industry contacts, yourself included. And you write a bunch of material and people go, I don't really fuck with most of this, but this, and then whenever people seemed grabbed by something I did. It was always a stripped acoustic thing. You know, Tipsy Love, first single I ever put out, that was the song that changed my life. Not because of how crazy it's done or anything like that, but because that was like a gateway song for me.
Yeah.
That led to, okay, you need to just be writing a ton of stuff stripped on acoustic.
Yeah.
So I figured out like a workflow where I was doing demos that was just vocals, guitars, super simple bass kick, you know.
Oh yeah. Some of my favorite music from you, the
Thank
A
you.
Prayer Away era, one of my favorite songs, period, outside of
thank
knowing
you.
you personally.
Thank you.
I think I've sent you like 300 screenshots over the years.
Yeah.
Listening to
yeah,
that record.
like, yo, verse 2 though. Yeah. No, I wrote that in.
Every
Yeah.
time it comes up.
Yeah.
It's just it has such a cadence and such a emotional weight to it that I think it conveys the emotion of what you were going through or feeling at that time.
Yeah.
And I know that you were reflecting on your personal relationship that I know has prospered since then. In the narrative of those records.
Yeah.
But I feel those songs so deeply, man. That's one of my favorite projects front to back ever from any artist.
Thank you, man.
I listen to that project religiously, man.
Thank you, man.
Religiously.
I appreciate that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Prayer Away is a special one to me because it's, you know, it's about loss. And I had lost my grandma and my grandpa and just, you know, confronting death and your take on it. And, you know, I grew up Catholic. I went to Catholic schools for private Catholic schools for 13 years, but I've since parted ways with the religion of it. But I feel like I've kept the faith, and that song is really just about how I still feel connected to the ones that I've lost.
Yeah. Would you say that you've opened up more of a spiritual perspective in life, or what are you grounded in?
That's a great question. I'll let you know when I figure it out. No, I mean, you know me, I'm a big family guy.
Yeah. You like to go back to your family lake often. And check out.
Yep.
Right?
In Northwoods, Wisconsin. And that's the setting of what Prayer Away was about, you know, being
it was the cover, wasn't it?
What's that?
Wasn't your like project
Yeah.
cover?
All the artist songs were photos of Roach Lake flipped upside down.
Yeah.
You know, just a subtle psychedelic effect because it's the most beautiful place in the world to me.
Yeah.
Especially in the fall.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, just I actually wrote that song in the artist commune house though, and I remember I was just sitting writing it on acoustic, and Quincy gave me this look like you got to finish that one.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I was definitely really focused on concept, which I still am. You know, I kind of reverse engineer from a title and a concept once I have melodies.
Yeah.
You know, some people are lyric approach left to right, like write it like a poem and then sing it. I do that, but I think more often than not, I sing gibberish melodies, arrange them so I know I have great melodies, and then reverse engineer from the title and the chorus. Yeah. And
make sure you got the meat first.
Yeah, it's you know, the title and the chorus is like the thesis for the whole song, and it's so much easier to tell the story when you know where you're going with it. Yeah. At least for me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We've had the blessing of having a lot of sessions together over the years, and I've seen your creative prowess really shine in those moments, and you have an uncanny ability over all the sessions that I've done of making sure that things stay progressive and like the session stays moving, right? Yeah. It's either knowing how to direct, how to reflect, how to collaborate, but just keeping the momentum pushing forward in the sessions. And is that something that you were taught? Was that like something that you naturally inherited yourself, or were there influences and inspirations that kind of showed you the methodology of how to really push a session from A to Z?
I think you nailed it on the head with the word momentum. I'm a momentum guy just because I'm writing so much that I think, you know, sessions, most sessions start at 1 p.m. People got to be out by 6 or 7. Yeah. You have a finite window to make something happen. Yeah. And, you know, you put in your 10.
It takes people an hour and a half to get there most times, too.
So. In LA, yes. In LA, yes. Yeah, there's a lot of life surrounding a creative session. And, you know, I have my tricks to stay moving. You know, if you hit a wall, like what's a good trick to get through this part of the creative process? A good example is, let's say I have a melodic arrangement. I know the melodies are great. I always do like a first pass on lyric, and I just let it be bad. I just go, ba-da-da-da-da. Well, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Ba-da-da-da-da. And let it be bad and trust your ability to edit. So, you know, I think some people get hung up on one lyric on verse 2 and spend 2 hours on it. And there's nothing wrong with that. But when you are a professional and everybody's sitting around and you're in a room with 10 people, and the manager's there and the label's there,
and you're being compensated for your time.
And you're being compensated. You know, time is money, so you know you got to stay moving. And but I never settle at the end, making sure that the edits take place. And
that's not for you.
What's that?
Or you do stay at the end.
Well, I mean, just day one, if you have a finite amount of time, it's like you're getting the rough draft out.
Yeah.
And more often than not, the first instinct is the thing.
Yeah. Always.
Even if it's weird or a little different, like weird and different is good.
Oh yeah.
So I'm big on trusting my instincts and momentum.
Yeah. So what I always try to convey to young artists is there's a Greasy Will, who's an awesome engineer that I've had the pleasure of working with.
Love Will.
Yeah, at East West. He's one of my favorite people on the planet.
Yeah.
And I just love his perspective on things. He said something that has stayed with me and resonated with me since. He said the reason why old tunes are oftentimes and more often than not your favorite records is because they were forced to commit to the idea. And they basically had to have the balls to move forward with it. When you had one pass on tape, or you know how expensive the tape was, there wasn't that emphasis of let's record this and then finish it in post. Like, oh, we can just melodyne the vocals or we can just tweak this production or do that. They had to commit to the idea. And that resonates. Like that is going to emotionally convey to the listener when you know the call and response from the artist was, this is the idea, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm getting through. Is your process always in a session to start with melodies? Is that like...
It's different every time. And I also, you know, I do co-writes. I don't just write for my own projects. I write with up-and-coming singer-songwriters. I write with writers and producers where we're going after top 40 hits. I write K-pop. I write film and TV stuff. And I pride myself on being, or I work really hard to be objective and be good at being objective in any given session. So it really depends. If I'm in with an artist whose lyrics are incredible and I'm there to play a supporting role for them, and what they like to do and what is working for them is writing left to right, write a poem, jot down a bunch of really real thoughts in a notes app and then turn it into a song. I'm like, let's do that. You know, like you get different kinds of songs that way.
Got it. So it's a collaborative emphasis.
Totally.
Like that kind of dictates the pace of how you start things.
Totally.
Got it. And your own methodology, like when you're writing for JT and JT alone, do you follow the same approach, or is it normally like you find a chord progression that you're feeling? Like what's the more often than not, like the majority approach that you take? More
often than not, for my stuff, it's fiddling around on a guitar until I find something captivating that evokes an emotion, laying down a bunch of melodies, trying to find those 4 or 5 main melodies, doing the melodic arrangement. And then once I have a guitar and a rough lead vocal melody, sometimes I'll EQ out the high end on the vocal so that I only hear the melody and not the phonetics and syllables of it. And I'll just, you know, go for a walk and listen to it, go sit outside, lay in bed on my laptop and just work backwards, usually from the chorus and the title. But, you know, if it sounds like I said something in the gibberish in the verse that is a great lyric, I'll chase that too. You know, I'm big on like abandon anything that doesn't feel special and chase the thing that feels real and chase the thing that feels special and see where that takes you. You know, if I'll get a full melodic arrangement and I'll think I have the best version of the song, but I start working on the verse and the verse starts taking me somewhere else, I'm like, let's mute everything else. Let's ride this wave where it's trying to go. I'm always trying to get out of the way of what the song is trying to be, you know?
So you'll mute or do the high pass on the EQ or whatever so that you're not inspired or that you don't have a directive from the...
Yeah, it makes it more flexible for like the rhyme scheme to have the EQ high pass or like the high end on the EQ gone, because then you're not hearing certain vowels and you can change it up if you need to. You can still hear the original melody that you know you love. But sometimes you want to hear the full gibberish too because the gibberish feels so good.
Oh yeah.
So you want to follow the rhyme scheme
Sometimes
and the
it's hard
sounds.
to beat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Low key, I've thought about like I want to just drop a gibberish album. Just call it gibberish and just let it all sound
I
amazing.
swear to you, it'll do well.
I know, right? Like,
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
Think about the records that get second legs or their first run when they're chopped and screwed or when they're slowed down, and it's completely against the initial intention of what an artist thought that it was actually going to be. But you can never define what your hit from your catalog is going to be or what the audience is going to resonate with. That's where most people make a critical mistake. Is they carry the belief that they think, oh, this is going to be the one. You know what I mean? And we've worked on a bunch of records together with some artists where I was convinced it was going to do like 1 billion streams. You know what I mean? And then it's the B-side of the project that ends up performing better. You're never going to be able to define what that is, you know? Have you always been inclined with instruments? When did you start playing guitar and when did you pick that up?
I took guitar lessons in 4th grade.
So pretty young.
Pretty young on guitar. I remember going into Ward Brat in Madison, Wisconsin, which is no longer there. It's like a music store where they had some lessons in the back. And being like, I want to learn how to play Always Be My Baby by Mariah Carey. And it's this, it's this like 50-something dude who's like an amazing classical guitarist. And he's like, all right, so the whole first like 3 sessions, I'm ding-a-da-da-ding, ding-a-da-da-da-ding. And he's like, all right, this is what he's
epic.
So that, and then from there, learning a lot of like John Mayer and Dave Matthews. Like people love to give Dave Matthews shit. And, I think more and more people are just going, yeah, John Mayer's undeniably talented. You fall on either side of the fence as to whether or not you like the music. I'm a huge fan. I think he's amazing. But I'm glad that I latched on to those 2 catalogs because those guys are amazing guitar players. So it's a great way to like build your guitar chops just by learning other people's music. I'm not like a big theory guy. I was always on ultimateguitartabs.com and just learning,
utilizing resources.
Songs. Yeah, exactly. I think John Mayer, it was an interview with him. He says, if you're playing something by someone else and there's a moment in the song that you really love, it's like, ooh, that's nice and different. That's a different chord to go to. He says, find the thing behind the thing. It's like, so I'll do that a lot. Like I'll sit and play songs that I love and I'll go, ooh, Kiss from a Rose, Seal, these chords are fresh.
Classic.
Why does this work the way that it does? Like what is the theory behind why these chords feel the way they do and why do they feel so different? And I feel like that's a good way to dig and find something different. And one might be uplifting. It might have a little bit more emotional weight on a different chord progression. And it's oftentimes like, I hate to use the word cheesy, right? Because a lot of times cheesy records equates to more commercial success, right? So it just means that it has a broader appeal to people. Right.
And I always feel like that comes back to the science of that it's just simple and easy to listen to. Like some of the biggest hits of the last 10 years has been like an Apple loop or a Splice loop or something that's already refined, right? And one of the best quotes that we took away from one of our previous episodes with Danny Boy Styles, who's an executive producer for The Weeknd. He's worked with Beyonce, a ton of people, one of the most talented people I know. He said people need to chase what feels good. First and foremost. Like when you're trying to produce with the sound, you're like, you don't just go to it because you think it's the popular kick that everyone's using or the popular chord progression. Trust your instinct. Trust your soul when something feels good.
And
right?
Your taste.
And you have a supreme ability to have songs that are very emotionally captivating, right? And they always settle with me, and I always go back to your lyrics as like, wow, like they're ones that I want to share in my stories or like carry with myself, right? When did you feel like that crossover happened for you when as a songwriter, where you were like, all right, I think I actually have like some talent here. Like I think I can really make this kind of into a career for myself. What was a moment that you could reflect on where that kind of came to you?
I think it's kind of been a battle, one in increments, because I think I've just gotten better over time,
More reps.
Yeah, reps and...
but you would have initial sparks early on that would kind of inspire you.
Yeah, and this goes back to my mentors too. I think I was really lucky early in my career in that I had people giving me honest feedback on the work that could have been better. You know, whenever somebody asks me for feedback, I say, do you want real feedback or do you want me to tell you this is great? Because it's so easy for your homies to be like you send them to them, it's like, oh, this is awesome. Keep up the good work.
Yeah.
Like, okay, great. That's not productive, but okay, that's great. You know, and I can do that for people all day long. But if you want to actually get better, find mentors whose work you respect. And I always say, tell me 3 things you like. Tell me 3 things you don't like.
Epic.
And if you do that enough, you figure out what is rubbing people the wrong way about your work. And, you know, I did a lot of that. And you know, you figure out what you're doing different. And I think that era when I was living in that artist commune house in Silver Lake for 3.5 years, that was just like, that was we called it an incubation period because it was like, we're all just trying to figure out who we are and how we can sound different. Cause that, you know, you can have a reference track and try to sound like Max Martin all day long. Yeah. And I still do that cause that's great pop music, but trying to figure out how to sound like only you can sound is so difficult. If you haven't found that sound yet. So for me, it was just volume, writing so many songs and figuring out what was different and what was working, you know, and where my voice sits and sounds different from other people. Absolutely. You know?
Absolutely. Like everybody tries to, there's a lot of unjust critique that goes around for a lot of artists, and people think that they were just placed on the mantle, or they don't recognize the amount of work and development that went into these artists arriving at where they are. Like, it's a philosophy that they inherit of development, right, and discovery. Like Taylor Swift, right? From the young age of her early teen years was writing hundreds of songs. So it gets to the point where when she wants to convey a message and understands what that 15-year-old girl in high school wants to listen to and wants to understand, she now has the formulaic process to where she can get from A to Z in like with the snap of a finger, because she's done so many songs, for sure, written so many songs, right? You had an awesome experience with Songland. You won the Songland competition show.
I won an episode of it. I didn't win the whole thing because every episode is a different artist, but I won the One Republic episode.
Okay, that's a great one to win.
Cool.
You know what I mean? What was that experience like for you?
Very surreal. I always say that it was like a Black Mirror episode because it was just weird and surreal, but instead of everything going wrong, everything went great.
Wow.
And they could, like, NBC couldn't have been cooler to me. Ryan Tedder and One Republic couldn't have been cooler to me. Shane McAnally, who's an incredible writer. He was who I got paired with for my like superstar writer that they pair you with if you make it through the first round. And Shane was low key like, I didn't know Shane that well. I knew his work, but like getting to work with him, I was like, oh, this is where you want to head if you're a songwriter. His social IQ is off the charts. His lyric game and his ability to read a room and know what needs to be done to get the best work out of people. Like I only saw a glimpse of that getting to work with him, but I'm like, oh, this, like, I have a ways to go. Yeah. You know, and super inspiring to see him and to see Tedder and to just be like, they're doing what we're doing. They've just been doing it longer and they've put in their time to get that much better. So that was the greatest value from the show, was just being, you know, humbled at just seeing that this is how everybody's doing it, you know?
And that record was Somebody to Love, right?
Somebody to Love.
Somebody to Love.
Yeah.
So what was it like? Was it an audition process that you had to go in first before you even made it to the first round? And they're like, sing us some songs, and like, how did that work?
So that song was the original demo I wrote with Jinte, one of my good friends, amazing producer, writer, and amazing human. Andrew Wells, amazing. Kevin Fisher, aka Sweet Talker, he's also signed a prescription. Kevin Fisher is an amazing top liner, lyricist. He's especially good with poppy melodies. So that's an amazing room. The four of us in the room wrote the original demo. I think it was like 5 years before I submitted it for Songland auditions. You could send songs in. And, you know, I'm a big believer, if you have a demo that you love or a song that you love that hasn't come out yet, keep sending it around. Keep believing in the song.
Just takes one.
It just takes one, and different songs take different amounts of time to marinate and to find their home. Just because the first A&R you sent it to doesn't have an artist on their roster or doesn't believe in it or whatever it is, doesn't mean you shouldn't keep sending it out and keep trying to find a home for it. And I sent that song in, and the rest is history. You know,
wow.
I can't go too into it because you signed these NDAs.
Of course,
and it's
of course. I'm not trying to get anyone in
yeah,
trouble.
yeah. No, it's a big ass national television show, but you know, a lot has to go right to make a record like that happen, and it was an amazing experience. Like,
and then
how
you
many
had to
people
perform
get to go
it,
on a
right?
show like that?
Yeah.
You know, so it was an amazing experience.
And then you had to perform it live on the show as well, right?
I did, yeah. I got to perform.
Was that nerve-wracking?
Probably the most nervous I've been, I think, ever.
Yeah.
Weirdly, I think sports prepared me for that moment. You know, you think about like before a football game or I played football and basketball, before a big game.
Yeah.
You know, you're all
butterflies.
nerves. And I remember somebody telling me, you're not nervous, you're excited. It's your mind and your body preparing you to perform. And you need a lot of energy to do it. So I just kept trying to remind myself of that. Really awesome getting to know the other contestants on the show who I'm still homies with, all of them, because you can joke around with them through the process and keep the mood light because everybody's nervous, you know, like I think it was like 9 million people watched the show or something absurd. It's like, like at the time you can't think about that, but like, that's a lot.
That's a lot of people, man.
Yeah.
Try and put them in a room. You know what I mean? That's a lot.
Don't quote me on 9 million. I don't remember the exact number.
But it was
Why
a
should it
few
be like
million.
9,000.
No, it's NBC, right?
Yeah, it's NBC.
Oh, so it's prime
yeah.
time.
Yeah,
so it's definitely a few million people, at least, at minimum,
Yeah.
you know? So you got the experience to meet some amazing songwriters like Ryan Tedder, the likes of who we know is one of the best writers of our generation. Who are some other major influences for you, some other major inspirations that you love?
I always like to talk about this guy Yonsei, who's the lead singer of Sigur Rós. I don't even know if I'm saying his name right, but he is, I believe, Scandinavian.
Yonsei?
Yonsei, Jonsi.
Oh, whoa.
But he's one of my favorite artists ever that people don't talk about enough. He's a huge influence on me, vocally especially. He just has such a unique style and vocal delivery. My favorite album of all time is an album called Rice Boy Sleeps. Yonsei and Alex, it was a collaborate between him and Alex Summers. And I believe they wrote and produced it in Silver Lake, which makes it extra special to me because I spent half my time in LA in Silver Lake, so like I know that environment. But it's overall like an ambient orchestral album, but it's the most beautiful album I've ever heard. I got to see
Rice Boy Sleeps?
Rice Boy Sleeps. Rice Boy, one word, sleeps. Second word. I got to see them perform it live at the Orpheum in LA like 5 years ago with my wife, and still the most captivating show I've ever seen. Just unbelievable.
Wow.
So he's a huge influence on me.
Yeah.
And then all the other ones were ones that you would expect.
Yeah.
Beatles, Oasis, John Mayer, Dave Matthews. You know,
Dave Matthews is his birthday. I share the same birthday as him.
No way.
Yeah, I always thought that was cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You got your ball. You got your. I'm gonna play Crash into me for Sino after this.
Bro, people
podcast.
underestimate how ridiculously successful he is. Like he has one of the most lucrative tour runs like ever.
They have a cult following. It's
Cult
like Grateful Dead style, lifelong cult following. You know, it's like a jam band thing. They've got pop records from their big runs, but they also are just an amazing jam band and amazing musicians.
Yeah,
and
it's a big ensemble of performers in the band, right? Isn't there like 8 or 9 piece band or something like that? Dave Matthews?
Give or take. But yeah, they're all incredible musicians. And I think that's why jam bands have the longevity that they do, is no live performance is the same. And their fans end up going, which songs are they going to play? Like, oh, that's a new outro. Oh, like, you know, they all get their moments to solo. So like every show is different.
That's epic.
And you'll go back to see the show because it's going to be different, and you know it's going to be different.
Yeah. So you inherit pieces from these artists and influences of yours, and you apply it to your own approach?
I think so.
Or is it more of like the feeling that you hope to go for?
You know, I would love to say like, I only listen to the artists that are my favorite artists, and they're the only ones that influence me. But the reality is, I just save songs that I love and throw my playlist on shuffle. So I'm really just listening to anything and everything that in the past I've liked. So I always say there's only two kinds of music: songs you love and songs you don't love.
Yeah.
You know, or good songs and bad songs. But really, it's songs you love and songs you don't love.
Yeah.
And I hope I'm influenced by all of it. And I hope when I make music, it's kind of just a combo of all the things that I listen to and love presented in a unique way, you know?
Very interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the things, that's what makes music great, is the variables and the variety of what people love. Like I always say, like, how do you explain to an Olivia Rodrigo fan why Slipknot is as prominent as they are, or as big as they are, and vice versa?
Yeah.
Right? That's the beauty of it, is it's an all-encompassing universal language that you'll often see people even in videos or whatever, like they don't even understand really what's going on, but they recognize the feeling that it gives them with the Mariah Carey records of the world and whatnot. You know, we're coming up on that season anyway, where we're all about to do Mariah Carey season. I think it starts in T-2 weeks. Oh my God, I can't walk into any department store during the holiday stretch because it's all. She goes number one like every year now. You know,
it's an evergreen.
It's an evergreen.
We call those
Absolutely.
evergreen songs. It's like that song's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
You know, it's part of the culture now.
Yeah.
You know?
And speaking of being part of the culture, you see like the infiltration of ulterior genres in different places that have this unique fusion, like K-pop, for example.
Yeah.
Like over the last half decade, we've seen such a surge in popularity for the K-pop music with Blackpinks and excuse me, those type of different acts.
Yeah.
You've had the experience, I know, of you just recently went to Korea a couple of times, right?
Third time in Seoul.
Your third time.
Third time in Seoul. Yeah, I was there 3 weeks ago. I love Seoul.
Please tell me about that experience. What is it like over there? What's the culture like? What is your process like? Do you bring your JT Roach approach there and that's what they're looking for? Or is it like a completely different philosophy? Tell me about the city first. What's the city like?
First? Okay. Yeah. So I got to talk about the barbecue. Korean barbecue.
Oh my God, my favorite.
Is so good.
It's my favorite.
The city is so
like short ribs and stuff.
You know, they do a lot of pork, and just like barbecuing on the hot plate in front of you or on the grill in front of you. So everything's so fresh. And
oh man,
I feel like the quality of the food is better. It makes me feel like the food is shit in the U.S.
Oh, of course it is.
Like you just feel better after eating it. You feel lighter. You don't feel like you get hit by a train.
Yeah, and I have to take a nap for like an hour.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like eating a Chipotle burrito in the middle of the session. You're like, okay, I'm gonna go take my nap, and I'll be back to write verse 2 in a little bit. Everybody's been there. Don't act like you haven't.
100%.
Yeah. I might be there later today.
You just said Chipotle. I was like, it's been a while. I might have to go.
The food is amazing. My first 2 trips there were, I got invited by my friend Josh Cumby. Shout out Josh Cumby, one of my favorite people in the industry and just on the planet in general. Amazing writer, artist, producer. He invited me to go do a camp with him at SM Entertainment.
Oh, awesome.
So my first 2 trips were for that camp, and amazing writers. Josh had produced all the records beforehand, so we're there to write to these beats that are pre-approved that fit the artists. SM Entertainment is amazing. It's like a super impressive facility, great studios,
a powerhouse.
Yeah, and amazing artists.
Oh yeah, they develop their acts from the time they like step out the womb, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I say that they're going through what we went through in the late 90s with like NSYNC, Backstreet Boys, Britney Spears. They're like going through that wave. They've been going through that wave, but it feels like they're in the heart of it right now. We're not really in boy band world in the US right now, but boy band, girl bands are like the thing there. And culturally it translates so well. And it's really fun music to make. Yeah. There's, you know, I feel like a lot of US pop is like, how can I be cool and subtle? But they love really fire chord progressions and melodies that feel like they have high energy and that just are impressive musically. Yeah. And I think that's why so many writers and producers from the US market are getting more involved in K-pop, is it's just really fun music to make. And I feel like the genre is pretty wide open as far as, you know, what kind of styles can translate. But the more that I'm doing it, the more I understand the genre. I feel like I'm still learning how to write in that style, but I think bringing what you already do to it is a way to bring something fresh to them as well.
Well said.
So, yeah, because I don't think they want you to go there and try to learn what they're doing. It's like bring your own style.
That's
and your
what
own
you're there
taste.
for.
Yeah, and find out how it merges with that.
So are you writing lyrics like in English that are being translated, or it's just straight like English lyrics?
My Korean is not good. I know. 안녕하세요.
Hey,
yeah, and then 감사합니다.
Which means
thank you. 안녕하세요 is like hello.
Hello.
I'm sure I'm saying them both wrong.
No,
I think I'm saying
legit.
them well enough that people know that I'm trying to say those things.
And they respect the attempt.
Yeah, and when in doubt, I use Google Translate. But I want to take lessons and like learn Korean because I want to spend more time there.
Epic. The city's spotless, right?
It's very clean and it feels very safe walking around. It's like it feels like a super clean Chicago to me. And
how long were you there?
I was there for a week each time.
How's that jet lag?
Jet lag going there is fine. You know, coffee will get you through that. But when I got back,
it's like getting hit
it
by a
fucks you
train.
up. It fucks you up. Like I'd be up at 3 a.m. Like I'm ready for a whole meal right now.
Yeah.
And you know, if you handle it really well, it should only take you like a few days, like 2 or 3 days to adjust. But this last time, I came right back into double sessions like an idiot. And
oh man!
So I was messed up. But
coming off the momentum, thinking you're about to be running and hitting it.
Yeah.
I had the opportunity of spending like a couple weeks in Europe, almost close to a month. And when I came back, I was wrecked.
Yeah.
Like my sleep was so messed up. I was passing out in the middle of the day. Like you said, getting hungry at the random times. And it took me a while to readjust. It felt like I didn't feel like a normal human being for like 3 weeks.
Legit.
To be honest with you.
Legit.
Yeah. Like, and then finally I was like, okay, I think I'm out of my jet lag, and it would like knock out an hour later, and oh man, it's absolutely brutal.
Yeah,
you know.
For sure.
But do you see Western influences, Western culture influences when you're there? Like, is it something that's like cute and quirky to you? They're like, oh, like they just caught up to this, or like these trends are finally making it over here, or is it very like a self-established, unique identity to the city and culture?
That's over there? Really good question. I feel like there's Western influence in the culture there, but I feel like it's its own version of it.
Is it like because they have really a KFC on the corner, or is it like
I saw 7-Elevens everywhere. They have McDonald's pretty much everywhere. Starbucks. You know. But like, I'm not trying to go there. I'm trying to go get some barbecue, bro. I'm trying to try all the local stuff.
The barbecue got you, huh?
Yeah, bro. Go to Korea and try the barbecue and tell me the barbecue didn't get you. It's so man, good.
I love Korean barbecue.
Yeah, and then like soju, and they do soju and beer, and like post session, like
is soju like their
soju is like a
sake?
Yeah, it's kind of like sake.
So like a rice wine.
Yeah, it's like kind of.
So like you think it's healthier, but then you smash like 4 bottles, and you're just like, maybe I push this a little too far.
Yes, my first trip there, the last day we got barbecue, and I
went a little crazy.
Overserved myself. But it was really fun.
They're like carrying you into the session.
Nobody has to carry me anywhere. But we do have a photo of me at the bar, like the celebratory end of the camp barbecue.
And it's obvious you're having a good time.
At the corner table, just like clearly getting hit by the soju train.
That's epic.
Yeah.
Do you see the same pace of society over there in regards to where, in our culture, unfortunately, we're going through the wave right now where people are enamored with their phones. Social media has basically warped attention spans, both in youth and older people, especially in our generation, because we were the last of the Mohegans, so to say. We were the last ones that saw it before when we were on dial-up and you couldn't talk on the phone and the internet at the same time. And you'd give your computer a virus just to download a song over the course of like 3 days, which this generation will never understand. Yeah. So we're the last of the ones that saw it before and after, like the great boom, right? Yeah. Do you see the same pace of society over there where it's like so social media driven, or are people a little bit more paced? Are they a little more balanced in what they do?
No, I don't know. I got to spend more time there to know for sure, but I feel like the social media addiction to the phones is a worldwide thing. Like anybody who has one, these devices are so addictive, and the apps are addictive, and there's so many ways to create business from them. I just feel like it's here and
Yeah.
everybody's experiencing it.
Yeah,
you know?
we're in a hyper state of attention span right now, and the attention is what they want to monetize on these apps, right? And we understand that like there's such a doctrine for young artists right now that they feel this immense amount of pressure that they have to put out, like I got to upload 5 clips a day, or I got to be able to do this, or I have to go viral in order to reach an audience, right? Instead of focusing on like a universal theme that might be more applicable and make their approach a little bit more sensible.
Yeah.
In the day and age that we're in right now, how do you find that balance for yourself in regards to wanting to, one, just enjoy the app on a leisure basis or enjoy social media, if that's even a thing, two, promote yourself as an artist?
Yeah.
And then what are the ramifications that comes with that? How do you feel that it's been effective for you in that approach? And like, what do you do to find that sense of balance for yourself of the mental health checkup?
Yeah. So I don't feel like the right person to ask for how to balance marketing on social media, being an artist, and having good mental health. I feel like if I crack that code, I'll let you know. But I've prioritized my mental health in my work. I usually don't have TikTok and Instagram downloaded on my phone, even Gmail. Those 3 apps specifically for me are really addicting, and just like I find myself in them without even intentionally wanting to be on those apps. But they're such great tools for business that I'm on them. I'll usually like download them on the weekends and like catch up on messages and, you know, do a TikTok binge, catch up on my feeds, whatever. But I'm going through this thing right now where November, December, January, I'm writing a new wave of artist songs, and I want to figure out how I'm going to market them and take that more seriously than I have in the past. So that's something I got to figure out, you know, because the reality is right now, those are incredible marketing tools.
Yeah,
and if you want to be an artist, you got to play the game. Yeah, you got to know how to utilize it. Balancing it with mental health and balancing it with your creative headspace. There's no way that's not a challenge for people.
Yeah.
And, you know, I know so many artists who are struggling with that, but
unfortunately,
it's not, you know, it's an app. I think you can limit your time on it. You can be strategic about it. You know, I've seen your podcast where you talk about shooting blocks of content, having the content ready. So you can like do a day where you block off and do a bunch of content and have it ready to promote. So you can be focusing on other things and know that you have X, Y, and Z coming up through the pipeline. Yeah. So I think something like that would make a lot of sense for me.
With your approach.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think that could work.
Yeah. Yeah. So what do you do to check out what are your hobbies? Like, how do you stay balanced? Are you in the gym?
Yeah.
Do you like to go on walks? What do you do?
Every
like
morning.
Romantic dinners?
Yeah. I'm big on routines, you know, like whatever you can automate for yourself, positive mental health and physical, emotional habits that you don't even have to think about, that, you know, anchor you. For me, it's my dog, my wife.
Carl.
Yeah, Carlton.
He's like a little human, man.
He is. He's
His
got
eyes, like, literally, there's a soul behind that window.
He's got like human trapped in a dog.
100%.
Vibes.
Such a chiller.
But like dogs are so great because, you know, there's consistency with that. You got to take them for walks. You got to feed them. It's like, it's not all about you all the time. You're taking care of something else. So that's beautiful. I go to the gym every morning. I lift.
Nice.
I do cardio, sauna. I do vocal warm-ups in the car on the way home. I have Jan's vocal lessons. Shout out Jan's vocal lessons. I do those, like 15 minutes of those in the car on the way home after the sauna when I feel loosened up. Make breakfast. You know, I'm a meal prep guy, like sweet potatoes.
Oh, please, you got to help me. I'm going to text you on the side there.
Oh, Costco meal prep. Yeah, that's how.
We're adulting heavy.
When you start talking about Costco, you know, when you start buying your clothes there, you know, that's the MO, is like, when you start buying your clothes there, you know you're in trouble, but not when you go there to buy eggs and green beans and chicken.
Yeah.
But
that's epic. So routine is your discipline.
Yeah.
And it's what allows you to stay balanced in it all.
Yes.
Is the routine.
And therapy too. Because like I've been in therapy, I did it every week for like 3 months, and then it was every other week, and now it's once a month. Therapy is really great. I feel like I have a better sense of when I'm struggling and noticing why I'm struggling and getting dialed back in, you know? It's funny. We talked about jet lag. I was working super hard in Seoul, and I was doing like 4 songs a day when I got back from Seoul because I had doubles in LA immediately when I got back. And then my homie Chemo, shout out Chemo.
Shout out Chemo.
He's who I went with on this most recent trip to Seoul, and he was still there for a week. So he's starting sessions and getting his melodies at like midnight, and I'm helping him with lyrics. So I'm working from midnight to 3 a.m.
Wow.
And basically getting 4 songs a week because he's doing melodic arrangements, and he's an insane vocalist. So, I call them sprints, but like I wasn't paying attention to my mental health during those 2 weeks. I'm like, let's write some bangers and then figure it out later. So, but that comes at a cost too. You can't do that for super long.
Yeah.
So, but I'm back in my routine, and
that's vital to you.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
You're like I even like said at the beginning of the interview is you're definitely fundamental in your approach.
Yeah.
Like I've had, I said, we've had the blessing of working together for a decade now.
Yeah.
And that is what I always take away from you is you have a very disciplined, strong line, fundamental approach. Like I don't want to give away, tips of the trade here, any of your trade secrets, but I know that you always have like a word bank you go back to, like you always have ideas and just random lyrics and thoughts that you have pulled up on like a notepad that you've written down over the years. So it's like once that starts to compound, you have an unlimited amount of inspiration to pull from. Totally. So if you feel stuck with something, you're like, hey, this was an idea that inspired me. This is a lyric that I think might be a good placeholder, yada, yada. So if there's a bit of advice that you could give to young songwriters who are just starting out, right? And just trying to figure out the methodology to their approach. What's a little bit of insight that you could give or some advice you could give to a young artist if you were speaking to your younger self?
One of the things that came to mind as you were talking about that was an interview with Tom Hanks, and he talked about his young career as an actor, and he said, be on time and come prepared or come with some ideas. I think that's a beautiful thing for co-write sessions and for, professional settings is like, I always have concepts, I have titles, I have ideas, I have guitar licks, I'll bring some ideas to the session. And if nothing else, it shows other people that you give a shit.
Absolutely.
Like very often I'll come in and I'll go, I have this concept. It's called, beer pressure. That's that's when people joke about it in Nashville, which is not a good title, but it's like, I'll come in with like a whole bunch of titles and maybe one of them's great and maybe it turns into a smash, but more often than not, what I'm saying is, I care about the session. I'm bringing ideas because I value your time. And that kind of sets a tone in the room. It's like, oh, this person respects me and respects my time. And if that's all it does, that's great. That's
great advice. I mean, preparation leads to proper performance,
We love alliteration in songwriting.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
So that's one tip. There's a million things I could say, but that's one that popped in my mind.
That's epic. I mean, to take it off on a high note and something a little more comical, is there something you can reflect on from a moment in a session where everything just went to shit and went wrong, or like
how much time do you have? No, man.
Something that you can share without naming names or anything. I always love ending them off on these notes.
Oh, that's a really good one. What's a good one?
Where I was just like, how could this be so disastrous?
Oh my God.
You have to share something.
Yeah. Okay, let me think about this for a second. Cut for 30 seconds while I think of a good story. I mean, there's enough sessions where alcohol gets involved. I think it's worth noting. I don't, I used to say, oh, if you want to make music people want to party to, you got to party while you make the music. But when you're a professional and you have 8 sessions a week, maybe partying 8 sessions a week is not the vibe. I think at some point everybody's tried that, but that's not for me. But we've definitely had sessions where it was like, weren't we supposed to write a song? But like flip side to that coin, I've had sessions where like, there's a bottle of Jack on the table and we're having a great time and it's talented people and you end up getting a different kind of song that way. So like, there's something to be said for that.
Have you ever had the moment of where you were like confident that you guys crushed it or you crushed it on a song and then you play it back the next day and you're like, this is not it? Like,
I will say that's why I'm careful with smoking weed in sessions because marijuana while creating, for me,
can be deceiving.
I like to use it in the later stages of the process where like I know I have a great song and I want to find a way to fuck it up and make it sound weird and different and like take some of the cheese out of it by like throwing some weirdness at it. But like sometimes weed for me, like trying to produce and trying to write lyrics and trying to like be objective in that headspace doesn't work for me. And I especially early on in my career, I remember being like, I remember this song from yesterday, it was incredible. And then you turn it on and it's like, I love you and blah. And I'm like, oh my God, what was wrong with me yesterday? Who was that?
Oh man,
So,
a little too stoned.
Yeah. I think that was more me in my like early 20s.
Yeah. You've come a long way since then.
Yeah. I've made all those mistakes. But
That's epic.
Yeah.
That's epic. To wrap it up, what's a note that you would deliver to JT of 10 years ago? What would you say to your younger self? Either a message of inspiration, of reflection. Are you proud of where you've come? Are you proud of the journey that you've been able to see, the successes that you've been able to achieve? What's that one note that you would say to your younger self?
I think it's, in the day-to-day of this job, it's easy to compare yourself to other people. And that can be kind of soul-sucking sometimes. And I always try to remind myself to zoom out. Like, what would me 10 years ago say about where I'm at now? My wife and I got our first house. I'm in my second publishing deal.
Epic.
I've got my own project. I'm signed to a great publisher. I'm getting to work with so many incredible writers, producers, artists. I'm flying around the world for camps. People are flying me around the world for camps.
It's epic.
That's incredible.
Yeah. It's a dream come true.
I think, if I'm being real, a lot of the things that I would tell me from 10 years ago are just things that I learned in therapy, which is like, I have people-pleasing habits sometimes. And when you're in creative environments and your job is to be a supporting role for other people, I think sometimes it can force you to shrink your own creative self. And I pride myself on being able to hold a space for other people creatively. Like if I'm working with an amazing artist, help bring out the best in them. But one breakthrough that I've had that I wish I could tell myself is hold that same space for yourself, even in those spaces.
Wow. Powerful words.
It's a way, be your own best friend. It's another way of saying that, like, hold your own creative space in the same way, because I think you can be in situations as a co-writer, as a co-creator, where you can say, oh, the artist is excited about it and that's my job. But people want me in a room to be honest with them. And that's the value that I bring is like, I want to say that one lyric on verse 2 isn't it for me. But if you don't say that, then that lyric's going to be on that demo, So I think having the courage to be your most authentic self, it's corny as hell when people say that, but it's true.
Powerful
and it's
words.
hard to do that.
Yeah.
It's hard to do that in rooms with really talented people.
It's hard to do that in life.
It is. It's super hard to do that. So I'm still learning that, but
powerful words.
Yeah.
Powerful words. Is there anything exciting you have coming up that you want to plug? Shameless plug.
Shameless plug.
Any projects or anything you want to drop?
Well, I'm about to go write my own next wave of solo songs. So I have no idea what I'm going to do, which is exactly how I like to feel going into writing a solo project. So I would say keep your eyes peeled for my music next year under JT Roach. On the co-writer tip, Maddie Zom, I've been working with a lot. She's incredible. We've got several songs coming up together that I co-wrote and co-produced for her. Really excited about her and about those songs. I think she's a really special artist. Song coming out with Abby Anderson, an amazing country artist. The song's called Hate You First. I really love that song. The country wave is real right now, and I think she's on an amazing trajectory.
Epic.
And then K-pop. I've been doing so many K-pop records.
Yeah. You got the Korean barbecue record coming up.
Yeah. I gotta do one called K-Barbecue. No, but just K-pop is so much fun, and I've been doing so much of that, so I'm sure
you're excited
those
for
records
that to
will be
see the
coming.
light of day.
I am, I am. You never know how long those need to marinate and who the artist is going to be that ends up with the records and which ones are going to go and which ones aren't. I always say the thing that you think is going to be the thing is never the thing. Never. And the thing that you like borderline forget about becomes like the big thing. So who knows what the thing will be next year and the years following, but the K-pop wave is real and it's here, and I've been having so much fun doing that.
That's epic, man. I mean, It's been awesome for me and a privilege to watch you in your ascension. I've seen the grind from the very beginning. No one is more deserving of all these experiences of getting flown out, doing all these things, all that. You're one of the most supremely talented, gracious, and humble people that I've had the pleasure of knowing. And I appreciate you taking the time to come. I appreciate you sharing the insights, the experiences, the knowledge, everything. And it's an honor to call you a friend, a brother, a collaborator, all the above. And I love you, brother.
I love you too, man.
I appreciate your time, man.
I'd say the same thing to you.
Thank you, man.
All the same to you.
It was
love
a pleasure,
you,
bro.
Yeah,
God bless
thank you for having me.